Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome to the Toned and Toneful video podcast, episode number 44. Creativity brings artistic sovereignty. So in this week's episode, guys, I wanted to talk to you about how your natural creativity can bring sovereignty in your musical life or artistic life. So one of the things that I wanted to start off with is the definition of sovereignty, and that is supreme authority or power. And I think that when we think about what sovereignty means as an artist, we think of that as our ability to have our own individualism and have our own, vision of the world and putting it forward the way that we want to confidently. Now, I know a lot of people will kind of see the word sovereignty as maybe a negative, but I'm trying to really point out to you guys why your independence and why power is such an important thing. I've always been a power guy. I love power chords. I love the power of rock guitar. And I love the power and influence that music can bring to others in an emotional and uplifting way. So one of the things that, I wanted to talk about in this episode specifically is how we can utilize our creativity through self-reflection and bring ourselves that sovereignty that a lot of us are looking for, a lot of that individualism and power that we could achieve that, but at the current time, we're depending on a lot of other people for. Now, in a previous episode, I talked about how, success if you do it alone. And this is very true. This episode isn't to be the polar opposite, but this episode is about you taking control of the things that you can take control of and how that you can bring your personal power to the forefront of your musical career or your musical or artistic endeavors without having to compromise so much because you can allow yourself to be in the right place. Now, the first thing is self-reflection. If we're able to self-reflect hard enough and see what our benefits of our talents are, and we can see where some of our weak points are, we can start building around this to start our sovereignty. Creativity is the true ability to come up with something either from nothing or to take ideas that are already created and manipulate them into something that you need at the time. So a lot of people would think, oh, if I'm creative, that means I can write a guitar solo on the spot. Or if I'm creative, I can be doing, just hear these chords and I'll write a solo. Or if I hear just a sound, I'll make up a song off that sound. Those are forms of creativity, but they're very extreme versions. And I think a lot of us live in a world that's a little more, not in the extreme sides, but sometimes creativity is more the interpretation of something else that you've heard. Say, for example, you hear an artist play something, one of your favorite musicians, someone that you're looking up to, and you're able to reflect on that, and you're able to go, if I were to have done that, or in my own way, it looks like this. And that is a form of creativity that I think a lot of people ignore. So one of the things that self-reflection can provide for you is the ability to look into the person that you are and the ability to look into the talents that you do have with a very realistic sense. Creativity is a very broad spanning thing, and you might find that inside of your artistry or your music that the creativity that you have might not be all in one spot. You might have an ability to hear a riff and then go, hey, I'm going to write my own version of that. I'm not going to learn it. I'm going to write something that has a similar vibe, but I will never take the time to learn that riff. That's a lot of people. And there's a lot of people who are creative in the sense that they can take that riff and they'll learn it exactly, and maybe they'll play it a certain way. They'll take a piece of music and play that composition a certain way that is very unique compared to the original artist, but it encounters all the same parts, and they're played very similarly. So neither one of these are a right or a wrong, because creativity is all going to be subjective. It's going to be one of those things that you could easily go, hey, I really like this, or I really like that, and I don't really like that. And the other person could say, I don't like that, but I like that. And it could be the opposite of what you're going for. And there's never anything really wrong with any of these types of opinions, but it's really important that through self-reflection, that you're able to find your tribe and that you're able to see what your mission is in your creativity. If sovereignty is a goal, if you're looking to be a person who could professionally play music and not have to use any other methods to pay bills, say you don't want to work a day job, you want to be able to play all day, then your ability to utilize your creativity must be put at a higher point than someone who could say, hey, I have these certain skills. I'm going to work a regular job, and that job is going to work for me to pay for these finances. And I'm going to utilize all these finances to fund this, or I will help get a marketing person, or I will help do this, or I'll, pay for that. Some people want to be able to go, hey, I want the whole vision to come from me. I want to find my band, or I want to find my team, and I want to work with them, and I want to be able to utilize my life to get everything from that point. And that's a lot of what this video is for people who want to take their musicianship from, or their artistry from a point where maybe they need a day job, to someone who's looking for it to be something they can do on their own all the time. So first of all, being the instrument yourself is one of the most important things. Have you developed your ears? Do you know what you like when you hear it? And when you hear it, do you know why that is? Do you know what that tonality is? Do you know what is attracting you to a certain piece of music? The more that you can define from self-reflection into who you are as an instrument, so that you can see things more clearly from beginning to end, or from the end back to the beginning, is going to be a very powerful tool that you could have that I think a lot of people don't utilize. A lot of people will noodle around, or they'll come up with a riff, or they'll do something, but because of the lack of clarity of the vision, it kind of still is almost always up for interpretation to them. I'm a huge victim of this. If I'm not really looking at what I want someone to feel when they hear a song, if I'm not looking at what chords and what harmonies and how I build that will mean something to someone else, from my standpoint as the instrument, I have a hard time being a clear instrument. The clarity of my idea and the clarity of my playing and songwriting will all suffer. So being the instrument yourself and having self-reflection are the first two steps. And that's why I talk about self-reflection so much, because self-reflection will mitigate a lot of problems that you could run into, that you might find when you're trying to build yourself as an artist. It is a very hard thing to do when you're unsure of your vision. Could you imagine a person trying to paint a painting and they didn't know what they wanted, at least in the end? Like, they didn't know. They had no idea. That is a very, very hard point to start from. And I'm not saying that you can never create great art from a mistake or a stumbling upon something, but to use that as your method of getting to something will make your time as an artist much harder and much less successful than a person who has an end vision. And you can really say this about anything in life. If there's a certain diet and certain look and body composition you want to achieve, then you need to think that in your head and realize all the things that come before that to allow that to happen. If you're looking to sound a certain way on the guitar, and you're looking for the tonality to be a certain thing, and you're looking for your vision to be proposed a certain way, you would know what amp you need, you would know what guitar you need, you would know how you need to perform it, you would know what pickup to play it on. And a lot of these questions start to become really easily answered when you are taking the time to self-reflect and be an instrument, to know your sound, to know the authenticity of your story. This allows you to tell the story in a way, because all art is storytelling. I don't care what version of art that it is. It could be, a painting. It can be a movie. It can be music. It could be instrumental music. That's the soundtrack to a movie. But every one of these forms is somehow storytelling. So I believe that if you know how to tell your story with the instrument, which is your voice, the voice can be 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 your voice. It doesn't matter. There's still a voice in every single form of art. And that is one of the really important things to keep in mind on while you're working on creating a vision of what you believe your art will sound like, your music will sound like, your painting will look like. These are all super important. And I got some notes right here because I wanted to be very sure about what I was going to say. One of the things that I think a lot of artists lack too, they could maybe have this vision and they can maybe have the self-reflection and be an instrument. But one of the things is expanding on the process and enjoying it. So if you're really good at playing guitar, but you're not very good at producing, for example, creating sovereignty might not only be playing through a guitar. You might find that you live in LA and there's a really high abundance of great guitar players. You could be in Nashville and find there's an abundance of great guitar players. They could all be around you, or you could be in any market where there's a similar artist to you, where there's an abundance. And now you're kind of in competition mode. But do you want to be in competition mode, or are you trying to be a storyteller and you're trying to be a person who creates? I think a person who's in a state of competition, oh, I can play guitar faster than them. Oh, I can write more complex lines than them. That is a thing, but is that really the place that you want to address your art from? Is that how you want to address it? Is a very competitious type aspect, where you're kind of more looking into the qualities of your playing in a very narrow sense as each variable, rather than being someone who's looking at the completed item and going, wow, this is just really something, whether that's you playing on a slow song or that is you blazing through 30-second notes on a 200 BPM, just immaculately. These things are all very different, but at the same time, what really matters the most is the end piece that we create and if it fits us as a person and our storytelling. So if you do not enjoy the process of creating in general, it might be something you want to address, because this could open more avenues. For example, I'll use my friend Ben McSherry as an example. Ben is really great because not only is he a good guitar player, but he's also a very good producer and has vision. So when he hears something, he kind of has an idea about where he wants that to go, or he kind of has an idea where it could go. And this could be a big help to someone who maybe doesn't have that. So Ben can record music and produce for others while at the same time still being the guitar player he is, and create a more financial stable life for himself because he has more than one avenue to work from. This is incredibly important. If you take the idea of being able to enjoy the process and how you can spread that out into other sections of the same subject, you're going to become a much stronger person. So if you're a good guitar player, that's great. But do you understand rhythm and groove really well? Can you help people write grooves? Could you write a drum track for somebody who's looking to start their first demo and maybe they're not as experienced, and you could kind of guide them into that and get paid to help them out? And on top of that, help create another vision? Could you become the kind of person who could be a guitar tech? Say you're very good with your hands. Say you're very good with measurements and you're very good with looking at things. Do you tune a piano? Can you put the time into that? Maybe you have a really strong ear and you're utilizing it for music, but you can utilize it to also make money in music still in a different fashion. Think about that. Think about what it means to take the talents that you have and utilize them in different sections of where you could be. If you're a really good person with tones, yeah, maybe you need to be a producer. Maybe you need to kind of be the kind of person who can understand where all the tones need to sit so everything pulls together and makes a full piece. Maybe you're the kind of artist who understands color and you can bind colors together to create art pieces that other people who just don't have the vision of color the same way you do can have. You understand what I'm saying? And enjoying that process, enjoying the fact that you're able to create financial stability and sovereignty through your skill set, through enjoying the process, because you are aware of that you are the instrument, because you've done self-reflection to be able to tell your story, to know who you are so you could be an instrument. Do you see how all these things are leading together? Do you see how this is like a Lego set? And as we build more and more on the Lego set, you start to see the vision of what it is. You start to see. But it takes time for you to figure that out about who you are. So those who self-reflect very little, it's going to be very hard for you to be the kind of person who would know, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. And then if you're not an instrument yourself, if you don't know how to take what you're thinking and what you reflect on and turn that into story, to turn that into the art that you, whether that's visual or that's sound, that's going to hold you back a lot. And then not being able to enjoy the process or not see where your talents actually could be involved in other processes could make you a lot of money. Say that you're really good with time management and you're really good instrumentalist because you're able to go, hey, I'm going to practice an hour on this. And then I'm going to utilize 30 minutes to go over this song. And then I'm going to utilize this time, and you're able to be very focused. And then you have 3 free days a week. How come you're not managing a band? Or learning how to manage a band and making more money with being a manager for other bands, meeting more people, building your ability to know more people where your tribe might grow, your team might grow. If we're not thinking on those lines, we're just kind of like, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for this. Oh, there's no way. Oh, I hate doing that. It's okay to not like certain processes. That's why certain people do certain things. But if you really want to have musical sovereignty, if you really want to have artistic sovereignty where you have your own power and you're able to have your own stability, do you think that that is going to come from a person who says, I don't like, I don't want to? I hate to say it. You sound like a wimp. You sound like you really don't love music. You sound like you really don't love art. It's actually pretty weak. So think about who you are and what you want to do. And if you're making plans to actually be a musician, you're actually making plans to do something with music and yourself as an artist. That, again, that can go into every art because every art has competition and every art is not something that's easy when we're not stable within ourselves and when we don't have confidence that's based on real results. All of us can become insecure, hate what we're doing, or become unsure of how to get to the next step if we're not really thinking. Keep your commitments and they'll help you keep focused. Now remember that keeping your commitments is a huge deal because if you were to take on these jobs, if you were to take on these things, you will become financially more stable. But that stability is only as good as long as you can keep your commitments and as long as you can keep focused on what you're doing. Now, if you really know what you want and you really have at least some steps on how to get there, that doesn't mean you know how every step's going to be. That doesn't mean that we're never going to incur surprises or incur bad news. But if we have a plan, if the storytelling is there, if the ability to see where our creativity comes from and then how we can work on that goes to the next level, then we're already in a space. We're already in a mindset to be able to be focused because we know that when we finish this, it's going to go to this. And this is going to require my focus. But if I do them in the right amount of time and I do them correctly, it's never too much focus at once. It's never too much focus. It's just enough focus to keep you going and to keep things in the place that they belong. A lot of people will take on a chunk and then they'll do a job and it'll be too much because they'll be doing this, and then they'll add another side project that they want to work on, and that side project overwhelms them immensely fast, like a couple of weeks, and they're already like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to, keep this particular, what would we say? I don't know how to keep this rate of work, this rate of mindset and keep everything going. I'm getting burned out. It's easy to get burned out, especially if you're not happy with the process and you don't know what the next step is. And every single step that you have to do is a challenge that really wears you down. That is not something you want. And power is exponential when focused. Focus is such a big thing. I was talking to my friend Alec this weekend, call him Crisp, but Alec was talking to me about, if we do everything in like a small amount all the time, if we're consistent, if every day there's a little part of something that you do and you see that step, you can focus on that really well and you'd be surprised what you can do in 30 minutes. Most people underestimate what could be done in an hour, but they really overestimate what could be done in a year because they don't do anything in an hour. If you didn't believe or if you don't think you can get much done in an hour, for that long-term aspect, you're not going to get that goal done. So if you say, I'm going to have an album out in a year and it's going to have 7 songs and it's going to be like this, or I'm going to have 5 art pieces out and I'm going to show them at a gallery, or I'm going to screenwrite a movie and by next year I'm going to be trying to get someone to direct it, someone to produce it. Do you really think you're going to get to that if you think, I was supposed to work on my script today, or I was supposed to work on recording this idea, but I'm really tired and I have to go to bed in an hour. So, I'm going to watch a Netflix show and I'm going to smoke a joint, or I'm going to drink a beer and I'm going to kick back and I deserve to relax. I've been through a whole day. Okay. You go ahead and do that. You go ahead. But that's weak. That's weak, man. That's weak, everyone. That's hecka weak. Like, honestly, that 1 hour, Broseph, you could have had an outline solo. You could have been almost done with something. But instead, at this point, you're now sitting around going, huh? And you wake up the next day, and your friend has a post up, and they said they were going to work on something last night, and guess what? It's out. They have that video out. You're feeling a little bit weak, aren't you, right now? You're feeling a little unconfident. But it's not because you couldn't do it. And it's not because you didn't do all the previous steps. You might actually be aware of who you are. You might actually have self-reflected. You might actually have a vision. You might actually be the instrument. You might actually enjoy doing stuff. But if you don't focus and get to it and actually make it happen, like the episode we talked about, being quicker from getting things in your mind to doing them. If you can't do that, do you really think that you're going to be able to get that whatever goal is done in a year? Do you really think? And you know the answer is no. You know you're not going to get nothing done because everything requires some amount of focus and effort for an amount of time. Now, if you focused for 1 hour for 365 days and it takes you 50 hours to finish a song, you're done with 7 songs. You're done with 7 songs and you have 2 weeks to mix them because it's 350 days and you got 15 days to mix that guy or send it to someone else to do it because you have a team and they know what your vision is and they know who you're about and you've talked to them and you've built a tribe. Now we're talking. And that could have been an hour a day. An hour a day. But instead, you'd rather smoke a joint. You'd rather just go to turn on Netflix and fall asleep during a movie. You'd rather drink that beer or go out to the bar with friends who when they text you up and you're like, oh, I'll just go out with them. It's weak. I'm going to be honest with you, it's weak. And if you really want to get to the next level, you're going to have to get past being weak. You're going to have to get to the point where you will allow yourself to get the work done. Well, you'll see the value and the importance of what you do. I hope you guys understand that. Finances and a humble mindset are another thing that I think are really important for any artist looking for sovereignty. Money is currency. They call it currency because it flows like the current. It's not about having all the money in the world. So if you can make a living from music and you're putting food in your mouth constantly and you're like, hey, my money's a little low, I better get another project finished. That's where you need to be at. That's exactly it. It's not about having everything because you notice that the people who have everything, the most famous people, you can take someone like John Mayer. The dude's got every guitar you can think of that in his opinion he would want. He's got this Martin, he's got these cool 80 Charvels, he's got Fenders from all sorts of years, he's got his original Fender that he had and he played in his bedroom as Stevie Ray Vaughan when he still has that. And so you think, this guy's got 100 guitars, 120 guitars, and he's got a mansion and he's got all this, but the homie can't find love. The guy can't find love in his life. So no matter what happens in life, we'll never have everything we want if we're always aiming to grow. It's always going to be some part of our life where we're a little bit struggling. And everyone's got a different struggle. So that's for you to figure out through self-reflection. And that's for you to understand about yourself as you work into what you want. But if you were to actually take the time to invest in your music and you go, I've done 10 songs and I've got, 400, I got $4,000 saved up and there's a guitar that I really want that's $1,000 and it would allow me to do different compositions because I'm looking for something with more strings or I'm looking with something with this, but there's a whole project that I've been really looking to do. Buy it. I know it's a quarter of your money. I know it is. Now, boom, now you're $3,000. But the question is, can you take that and make moves with it? Do you make moves? Do you trust yourself to make moves? You don't get buyer's regret when you take the item that you needed and you use it. Buyer's regret, all this guitar selling, and you're talking to a person who is gear acquirement syndrome, gas times 10,000. There's a million guitars I want. But the real truth is the more that I used a guitar after I bought it, and the more that it helped me accomplish and earn, I'm never going to get rid of it. One of the reasons why I'm so connected to my Tom Anderson Guardian Angel, my white one, it has done so much for me because of me utilizing who I am through that instrument. It's paid my bills because I've lived on guitar before. It's taken me places and been places with me that none of my other guitars have been. It's been played by all sorts of people. The mojo that's in that guitar, the amount of playing that's been done on it, it sounds totally different than when it was brand new. Totally different. It's way warmer, way of a different sound. The pickups have lightened up a little bit. But through discovery of what that instrument is and growing with it, I've never ever once thought about selling. I never thought about letting it go. There'd never be a reason. I would feel incomplete without that instrument because that instrument is an extension of some of my storytelling. So if we can be humble with our finances and we can see that currency is meant to flow and that you spend money on the things that you need and you bring it back in and you do something with it and you earn more money and you create a flow in your life, now we're living a life of abundance, we're living a life of mindset growth, and we're living in a positivity that will keep us towards successes. This is incredibly important for an artist, especially if you don't want your confidence just dumping through the floor, where you question everything you're doing. That is never a mindset to be in. That is the worst place you can be, is where you question everything you're doing and you don't have the confidence in yourself that you could get it done. Life is way too short to be living like that. Another thing that's really important is to remember who you are after success. A lot of people could be in a mindset where as they get more and more popular, as they get better and better at, maybe capturing attention, they forget the original story. They forget how to story tell. Or they don't remember how to get to themselves because they're filling themselves up with things that actually can't define you. So we talked about before being humble and getting the guitar and riding with it and feeling good about it. That's one thing. But when you're rich enough, say you have $3 million and you buy $1 million house and you buy an $80,000 car and, you're like, I still got like $2.8 million or I got $1.8 million. And you go to the guitar store and you buy the Gibson you always wanted and you buy this and you buy that. You can do all that, but none of it's a definition to who you are because it isn't created through the abundance of your mindset at the moment. It's created through just financial abundance. Financial abundance and mental abundance are two different things. There's nothing wrong with being rich and achieving that level of success if you can get that money. That's great. But think about what it is to balance that against your mental ability to know who you are and your mental abundance. Think about what that means to you to be mentally abundant, even if you were to say, I got this money and, I donated $200,000 of it. I bought a house for me. I bought a house for my parents. And right now, like my goal is to write my second album. And my goal is for it to sound like this and to be like this. If it's as critically acclaimed as the first one, that's awesome. If it's not, well, we can take a look at where my stories are going. Am I still living? Is my story that of one who's interesting? Am I still with the friends that I had originally? Not, I used to hang out with so-and-so, but ever since I kind of got in the higher tier, he kind of couldn't, he couldn't hang with me anymore. He couldn't afford the restaurants and I got tired of paying for him, or, all my friends want money handouts. Those weren't real friends in the first place. If you built the tribe the right way, they're people who you could literally give money to and they're dedicated to you because of beforehand. And if you're able to reward them or help them be on a level with you, now we're talking. Because those are the people who are going to be around you. And there's a lot of different depths to the subject of having money. But what I'm really trying to focus on with you guys is the ability for you to look at your mindset of financial abundance versus mental abundance. Could you lose all that money tomorrow and still be so mentally abundant that you're like, bro, I got this? Could you realize, say, for example, we'll just use, like an example like Toni Braxton, so she was given a lot of money. She was fronted a lot of money to do some albums. And she ended up in a very, litigious lifestyle because, law-based, she was always in court and stuff like that, basically. And it stressed her out a lot and it wore her artistic ability out because for her, she couldn't storytell anymore. She couldn't be the woman that she was and tell her story the way she did because of the fact that she got an advance on an album and she took that advance and she spent a lot of it on lifestyle and this and that. But what she didn't realize is She was supposed to pay for her own tour. She was supposed to pay for this, pay that. So she had to pay back the record company all the money that she already kind of spent. So basically, she made nothing off all these crazy things she did, all these super successful efforts that she did. You're like, whoa, so she didn't really end up with any of that money. Now, my question to you is, say you were Tony Braxton and you lost it all. Could you go back and go, hey, I'm going to still live my story. I still have so much to say and I still have so much going on just in general, that I could do something successful again, that I can be abundant, that my abundance isn't a one-time thing, that I am a human and I create abundance through my understanding of my life, my spirituality, and offering that to people. And that is why having creativity at a high level and being very sure of it creates more sovereignty than just money or just this or just that. It'll even improve your health. For the people who really believe in their creativity and feel confident and feel good every day, your health is going to be exponentially higher than someone who either hates their self or everything is based off a financial success or financial addiction or financial, materialism, that they can show off all these things that they have, but they have nothing to show for those things. It's just a thing. This could be a $1 million pen. It's not a $1 million pen, but say this is a $1 million pen. Still a pen, right? You write with it, put it in your pocket, and you're like, oh, okay, I got this $1 million pen, or I got $500,000 diamond encrusted necklace. You can have all those things, but do they really create any confidence in you that's real? Or is that based off someone else's perception of what a $500,000 necklace is? The things you do, you got to do them for you. Like when I play a Tom Anderson guitar, they're not cheap. It's not cheap to get a Tom Anderson. It's, a little bit on the pricey end. But having a Tom Anderson guitar to me has a lot to do with how I feel about the guitar and has a lot to do with how I perform and what I think of the tone. That it represents me in a certain way. That when I hear myself on the Tom Anderson, there's a certain sound that I'm always like, dang, this sound is always ever present. This is so cool. Can you bring that to the game? Can you bring that to everything that you are? Is just knowing that the things you have are important to you and it's fun. And if someone else enjoys it, that's great. That's nothing wrong with someone else going, yo, dude, that's a super cool guitar. Yo, man, can't wait to have one of those myself one day. And you go, yeah, man, you just keep working. Yeah, you're going to get it one day. So remember that creativity brings the ultimate artistic sovereignty. I really appreciate you guys hanging in there with me today for episode number 44 of the Toned and Toneful video podcast. You guys are amazing. The community that we've created and the people who I talk to every day uplift me every time. So I just wanted to say thank you to you guys, and I really hope that your week goes well, and above all else, stay toned and toneful.